Uh-oh. We're about ready to show up. We're about ready to go
Oh,
on. Wait a minute.
what were we gonna say?
Let's say mini.
I think it's that time, and here
All
we
right.
go. Whoa, caught you
Oh,
making some
sorry.
moves.
Yeah, man. I got all caught up in the intro. So we
Well,
got a pretty good show going on today. What do you think, Jeff?
I think so. I
All
think
right. Well, good deal.
some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I guess we'll kind of go through what we're going to be talking about and get ready to Oh, there it is right there. Oh,
Oh, let me find the button. Let
oh,
me
oh,
find the
oh.
button.
Ramble.
Oh, yeah. That right there just made my day. That's awesome. All right. Got to use that to introduce us. What was your name?
Yeah,
There you go.
that's right.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the show. I'm Steve Etzel with Jeff Taylor, and we're going to be talking about some real estate ramble for the next couple, about an hour or so. We got some good material coming at you.
Yeah.
As always, we always start off with the track violations. Those are probably one of our top conversations. I can't tell you how many people love hearing about those. All right, then we're also going to get into agent tip of the week, which I love those tips of the week. They just make you want to go, wow, second guess or second think through a lot of things. Let's put it that way. And then we're going to get into some questions. Got some good questions this week. And we're going to try something different this week. Oh, yeah. Looky there. Even Jeff's surprised. I don't know what he doesn't know what we're doing. No, we're going to kind of start off a sequel, if you will. And we're going to do part one of walking you through the basics of dealing with a buyer.
Oh, that sounds good.
Don't that sound good? I can't tell you how many times in class I get questions. Well, what happens if somebody calls me and they want to buy property? What should I ask them? Well, first of all, you panic. So you're doing the right thing. But, there are questions that we should ask. There's certain things that we should have in place. And then, of course, we're going to start off and move you through on how to finally finish out the transaction. And hopefully we can avoid some of these what? Track violations. All right, so let's start it off with some track violations. What do you think, Jeff? Boom! Every time I hear that, I want to duck underneath the desk for some odd reason. I have no idea
Yeah.
why.
Every
It's
time.
like, ooh, that kind of hurts. Yippers. All right,
Okay.
violation number one.
Violation number one. So this person failed to have policies and procedures in place to ensure that each sponsored sales agent used proper procedures to terminate a contract.
Oh,
So basically, this, here we've said it before. A complaint was filed. Trek will investigate, and come to find out, broker did not have any policies and procedures in place.
sounds to me like it was a complaint against the agent, and then it ended up being a complaint against the broker because they probably asked for the policies and procedures. And they took a look at it and said, whoa, wait a second here. You did not instruct your agent correctly. And now the broker got wrapped up in it because the policies and procedures did not outline how to do it properly. And so, ouch, that policy and procedure manual is pretty important. It's been around forever. I mean, ever meaning 2011, but for me, that's a long time, so brokers should have a policy and procedure manual. And that's 535.2I. That's your broker responsibility rule. And what happened to them?
The broker ended up receiving a $1,000 penalty.
Wow. I wonder what happened to the agent.
Yeah, it didn't say what happened to the agent, which I thought was kind of
Interesting.
weird. And
So it
maybe,
pretty much went back onto the responsibility of the broker at that point in time. So,
yeah.
wow. Well, that's an eye opener
So,
right there.
yeah, that is.
Yeah, I can't see anything that happened to the agent at that point.
Huh.
So that's
Yeah.
another reason why the broker responsibility, that course is awesome. That 6 hour course. I mean, I think everybody should take that. But on the flip side of it too, definitely put something in there on how to terminate. And of course, everything has to be in writing, right? Notice of termination. Wow. All right. Violation number 2.
Number two, respondent supervising sales agent allowed a sales agent sponsored by another broker access to use his sponsoring broker's computer system to
Oh,
execute a listing agreement in the sponsoring broker's name.
ouch. All right.
Yeah.
So respondent supervising agent. So that would be actually a delegated supervisor, right? That'd be a team leader. That's what that responded to. So that's kind of what it equals to. Allowed a sales agent sponsored by another broker. Oh, so it wasn't even the same brokerage. Access to use his sponsored broker's computer system to execute a listing agreement in his sponsoring broker's name. Oh, so that's basically using somebody else's name to respond, and that's also, if you think about it, that's confidential information too.
Yeah.
So you look at it that way. I mean, if you don't even work for the brokerage, what are you doing even looking at the contract? So that's confidentiality breach as well. So there's a lot of things going on there. It looks to me like that should be a pretty big penalty, but it only ended up being $500.
Yeah. That surprised me. It really did.
Yeah,
Oh,
I thought that would be way more. So I don't know. I think there might be some more to that too, because I mean, it's like I always emphasize, just because you get a TREC violation doesn't actually mean you can't get a TR violation, right? Texas Realtor violation. So we're only reading the beginning of all this mess. That could be, even more than that: breach, fiduciary breaches, and so forth. So yeah, $500 penalty is good enough, but I thought it would be a lot more. So.
yeah.
I wish we could follow these to see where they actually all go. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it did not necessarily stop here. I wonder what the actual end result was at that point. So I'm sure that broker was pretty upset.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
Imagine somebody getting into your computer system that probably doesn't have the passcodes or anything. Somebody just goes out and goes, "Yeah, go ahead and use my computer, man." Yeah, probably be pretty upset about it. That sounds like a cyber breach to me, right?
Yeah.
So that could be pretty bad news right there. And what happens if something was added or something was changed without somebody's permission? Oh, that could have been even worse. And it's in that broker's name too. So
Mm.
yeah, that's another reminder of how our computer systems and the information that we get need to be held confidential and secure, or else that could be a real issue. And only allow certain people, if you will, in the office or something to actually access that. That's a scary one right there. All right.
Yeah. So here's one that I think any one of us could be in this position, and another example of Trek doing a little investigation and then hitting it for something that wasn't even brought up in the complaint. This agent actually got a property. Let me see if she actually got it under contract or not. Yeah, so they got under contract. Offer fell through, or the contract fell through, and come to find out, the buyer learned that the agent ended up putting the house under her name, getting it under contract for her, and
What?
he was not happy about that. So when he filed a complaint, they investigated, and they found that she did not provide a broker price opinion or CMA.
Wow.
Yeah.
That goes back to that 535.16 rule, right? You have to do a CMA or broker price opinion if you're dealing with the buyer or seller. And so you look at it and go, Fail to maintain required records. Well, that's another problem too, because that's another violation. That's 535.2H, which is basically record retention. And statutory law says 4 years, right? So somebody actually has up to 4 years to make a truck complaint against you. So that's so important to keep that paperwork just in case, because you could be 2 years down the road, you think everything's great, and all of a sudden somebody gets fired up. They decide to file a complaint. Next thing you know, you're in front of Trek and you're going, I don't know what happened to the paperwork because that was 2 years ago. That's not an excuse, right? So that's why you should at least keep it for 4 years. Lawyers may tell you to keep it longer, under other statutes such as common law and so on, but still, 4 years. All right, from the date of the closing of the termination of the contract in a format that can be readily made available. So readily available, what does that actually mean? Well, we normally keep it in cloud systems that normally keep it on, maybe USB drives or something, but it just has to be accessible that you can send over to Trek upon request. That's what they're asking. So basically the buyer got...
And who knows, it could have been a couple years after the fact and he found out what you ended up buying the property, and he filed a complaint, against alleging improper conduct and self-dealing.
So you look at it and go, that could have been 6 months later. Again, you never know when these things are going to pop up. And if you made that person upset enough to say they're probably getting a better deal, then I could have got a better deal, thinking they stole that property from underneath them and taking advantage too. So, oh man, that's why. I strongly suggest not to buy your own listings. If you list a piece of property, that might not be the best choice to buy your own listings, right? Because that also sounds like a conflict of interest in some situations. So buyer's offer fell through, so the agent put an offer in for herself. Okay. When the buyer found out, he submitted a claim alleging improper conduct and self-dealing, which would be a conflict of interest. I wonder what the penalty was on that. During the investigation, Trek found out the agent did not provide a CMA, so there's another violation for you. And it's like I tell people all the time, it's because you get one violation. Once they start going through your paperwork, it's a fact-finding mission. That's basically what Trek does. It's called fact-finding missions. And so they go through the paperwork and they find more facts that they can use for violations. Ta-da, you got another one, right? And so what was the penalty on that?
I thought it would be more. $500.
Oh, I thought it'd be like 10,000. So we're looking at what? $500 penalty, no prior complaints. So, but on the flip side of that, we don't know the other end. You know what I mean? We don't know if there was a civil suit. We don't know if there was for damages. We have no idea what went on past this point. But Trek took care of it, and they only gave a $500 penalty. So, again, these are weird. Some of these things you would think you would get hammered with $5,000 fines, $500. So. You just never know. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Violation number 4. This one looks pretty common.
So this one, respondent acted negligently or incompetently by failing to follow instructions in the repair amendment. So the repair amendment stated the foundation to be repaired by a professional foundation company. Listing agent asked a handyman to level the house and fix all cracks inside the house. So
we already found out a problem on that one. It even actually says in the contract itself under paragraph 7 that now if they're going to be work done on the property, they got to show the work that was done, right? The receipt. And if you're going to have a trade person go out there and do it, either have to be licensed or an everyday trade, right? So I don't know if a handyman would actually suffice as everyday trade. So that's a problem. And they specifically request it too.
It might cover the cracks, but not the leveling the house.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Yeah, what we need over here is a tire. That's what we need to level it that way. All right, got some duct tape. We're good. All right, so yeah, I would probably not only want a professional foundation company doing it, but even after foundations are done, you might even want a hydrostatic test done too, right? To make sure it didn't mess up the pipes. And how about a warranty? How do they fix that, right? What do they do? Just stick down, like I said, some tires, or do they put pillars, or how do we fix this thing? And so that could actually turn out to be a future issue as well. So the sellers learned the repairs were not made by a professional foundation repair company, filed a complaint, which I don't blame them. How about you? I mean, foundation's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Instead of texting if it's going to happen, it's when is it going to happen, right? So foundations are a big deal, and houses are always doing this kind of stuff. And if it's not done right, it could actually be more dangerous. So that could be a real situation. And so let's see here. What? Let me guess what the penalty was. 6,000.
No.
Oh, more or less.
25% of that.
Oh, 1,500.
$1,500.
Oh my gosh! So $1,500 penalty, no prior complaints, and looks, do they have anything else?
So they did. They closed. So they're not saying how long after they closed. I mean, it might be a little while, and to find that out, I don't know.
I mean, you look at it too, and if you say that you got it fixed, and it said a professional. And you said, "Oh yeah, it was done by a professional. Here's the work order." That could be misrepresentation too.
You know what? This one has a whole string of them. That could
we can probably get a laundry list of things going on. Yeah. But again, Trek only sticks to the Trek laws, right? So all the Trello guidelines. So they don't go off into the weeds. They just stick to what Trek requires you to do. And so $1,500 penalty. And do they have to take a class or anything?
They did. 30 hours of agency law.
Oh, so that covers your do what your make sure you follow through and do what your client tells you to do, right? And also your fiduciary duties. Yeah, they probably made them go back through just to kind of remind them that it's not our house, right? It's their house. It's their negotiation. We follow what they ask us to do. So, wow. All right. Well, I thought that'd be a bigger fine too. How about violation 5? I think we got number 5, right?
Yeah, numero cinco. So this one, respondent acted negligently or incompetently when drafting a contract for a short sale by giving her client, the buyer, the lockbox code to access the property before closing. So this one here, I kind of feel like there's some ownership on the listing agent as well, because in the MLS it stated that it was subject to short sale, and you're looking at a 60 to 90 day closing. The contract was executed on the 3rd of August, and it had a closing date of August 27th. So right there, shouldn't somebody have caught that?
Yeah, that's a red flag. I mean, if it's 69-day closing, that's nowhere near, what is that, 24 days?
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense. So the buyer relied on the closing to be by the 27th. Well, again, that's up to us to catch that, right? We should have, like you said, my listing agent probably should have caught that and said, "Well, wait a second here. How in the world can this happen by the 27th when it's a 69-day closing?" And then on the flip side, I'm going back into the buyer her lockbox code in order to access the property. Does that mean that they gave the buyer the access code to go in without them, or?
Yeah. So the buyer agent gave the buyer the lockbox combo, thinking that she was just going to go in and do, some inspections. Well, what she ended up doing was actually going in, making repairs and renovations on this property before it even closed. And it didn't get, where it got caught was when the bank did an appraisal and all these repairs were completed, which caused the deal to fall through. And that's where it all came to head.
Well, that's kind of risky. I mean, I hear people sometimes, if they're going to flip property, they go in because they have equitable title, they make the repairs and this and that. But the problem with that is, what happens if it doesn't close? Who owns the repairs? All of that. See, you just basically repair somebody's house for them. So appreciate that. And also, how about liability? That's incredible, right? So these are things that you definitely got to. Also, another thing that just caught my eye right here, it said it in the MLS. It said it in the MLS, 60 to 90 days. So why wouldn't the buyer's agent automatically tell their buyer that we got a 69-day close? Or even better yet, hey, if we write an offer and we go to 60, let's say the minimum, and it goes past that, don't be surprised. Because I
Right.
don't know if you've ever done a short sale before, but they're not short, they're long sales. And I can't tell you the last short sale that closed on time. Can you? I mean, they always run
Exactly.
over. So there's no way in the world that it's going to be done in 24 days if it automatically stays. So I think there's a lot of responsibility here, just not on the buyer's agent, but also on the listing agent too. That was very clear, not 60 to
Yeah.
90 days. So wow, that's a
Yeah, I was surprised that somebody, and again, we've got to help each other out, right?
yeah.
And we need to work together as agents and kind of help each other out.
Melissa just asked, wonder if the buyer's agent was a party to the transaction. There's another problem you got because that's not an arm length away.
Yeah,
That'd be an
that's a good
that would be
question.
an arm. Those are called arm to arm sales. If you have an interest in the property, an arm length away means that you hire a disinterested party to do something. So that could be not an arm length transaction. It could be an arm to arm transaction. So yeah, that might be a point too. So there could be a lot to uncover on this one. This onion just keeps on, just keeps on coming, right? So all right, responding to the buyer, the lockbox combo and allowed unescorted access. We saw that in another one, didn't we?
It's
The
more common.
escorted rental. Remember that? If it's a
Yeah.
rental with no personal property and you sign the rental, there's actually a TXR form for that. Only for rental property, not for short sales. Short sale properties are still owned by the seller. It's kind of like doing the same thing as a listing, right? But who do you have to have approval to sell? The lender. So that's not a rental property. Instead, the buyer performed repairs, renovations, bank appraised it, and what did they get? Let me hold on. $8,000 fine and
No,
suspended.
uh, $1,000 fine.
See, you'd think that would be a
Yeah,
doozy right there.
this is a
thousand dollar
thousand dollar
fine,
fine.
prior complaints, and did they have to do anything else or just pay the $1,000?
Yeah, they did have to do 30 hours of agency law. So
Wow.
there's the agency law here, but yeah, just $1,000. So
Again, you would think that would be a complete 8-10 million dollar fine right there. And so if you look at it, I'm wondering if they just looked at what was the Trek violation. The Trek violation possibly would be unescorted, buyer, and that's a possibility. So, you look through it and the renovation side of things, I don't believe if I don't know if Trek looks at that as a violation or not, because that's in between the buyer and seller. So, you look at some of these violations, you wonder why they're not more, because again, they're only focusing on the Trek and Trello violations, not what's going on
yeah.
between the two parties. That'd be a civil problem, not a Trek problem. So that makes sense. All right.
Okay. Well, what do we got next here?
Well, I think we're going to have a word from our sponsor. What do you think?
There we go. Let's do that. Hey, this fella has really done a fantastic job. He's on our show every week, and this guy here. Oh, let's close the calendar.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're
And
going to be, can't see.
and here we go. But Handyman Plus, from big to small, Handyman Plus does it all. And
Yeah.
he went out to a property and did some work. 45 minutes west of Justin, on the fly, moments notice, and just bailed a couple of us out. So
That's good. That's real
fantastic.
good.
Yeah,
So he's always, it seems like he's your kind of right hand handyman.
it's good to have. It's good to have at least a couple vendor deep for each industry: plumbers, electricians, handymans, painters, because they're busy too. So
Absolutely. And to be able to go and drop everything and help you out, that's awesome.
yeah.
So good deal. Handyman, from big to small, he'll do it all. There you have it.
You do it all. That's right.
Do it all. All right.
Okay. What do we got next,
What we're
Steve?
gonna do? What's that? What we're gonna do is switch gears a little bit.
Nope.
Oh,
Okay.
here it comes. Reading through all these violations, we came up with an idea. How can we help people to avoid the violations? You read through the violation, you go, "Oh my gosh, that's horrible." But the problem with that is maybe a couple things. Lack of training. Just sometimes you get blown and going, and you just forget simple things. And so what we did was we kind of came together and said, "Wait a minute here. Wouldn't it be a good idea to kind of do some basics on how to walk a buyer through a transaction and situations that can possibly happen in that transaction, which could avoid these violations?" And for the most part, all the violations that we've read through most of the um, shows have been negligence, incompetence. What does all that mean? Lack of knowledge. Does that make sense? So you look at it and go, why didn't this person do a CMA? Maybe because they weren't taught how to do a CMA. So we're going to come up with a CMA series to show people the basics of doing a CMA and what different types of software that you can use, such as RPR, Matrix, Remind. So how can we use these violations to actually turn it into something good to avoid future problems? And I say it all the time. We might all work for other brokerages, but we're all on the same team. And if we're better, that makes us all better. And that's also going to build confidence with our clientele as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little example, all right, of what would happen if somebody actually called you in the office or called you on your cell phone and actually wanted to buy a piece of property. Well, this is pretty basic to start off with, but we'll work into different segments on how we approach and how we deal with different situations. So tonight's segment is going to be part one. How about that? All right, so part one of how to deal with a buyer. And hopefully we're going to start dealing with a lot of those once the feds decide if they stick to what they say they're going to do, right? If the interest rates go down, what's going to happen, everybody? We're going to be dealing with a lot more buyers, hopefully, right? And like we've been talking about, if the interest rates go down 1%, that could bring out up to 5 million buyers. That's a lot. And so you're looking at it going eagerly anticipating that that's going to happen. I just read an article today that the feds were trying to get it down to 5.5%. That was kind of their goals by actual summer. So, and then they were going to say, and they said that they were going to keep them there or around the fives for the remainder. So, is that good news, everybody? That's real good news. So we're going to be dealing with these buyers, hopefully popping up and asking some questions. And a lot of these renters that's been renting for 2 or 3 years might, have an opportunity to buy a property. But the only problem with that is what's going to happen to the listing prices. We're going to go back to multiple offer situations, possibly, right? So there's always something, right? There's always something. All right, Jeff. So let's start it off. All right, let's say, for instance, I give you a call and I want to buy a property. How's the phone ringing, by the way? Hey, how you doing, man? I'm a potential buyer, and I got my little buddy here, and we're looking to buy a property. And we're looking at the
okay. What area? What property are you looking at?
What property am I looking at? Well, I don't really have any property yet. I mean, I've seen a whole bunch of properties on, but, I don't know if they're available. I don't know what's going on. I went through Zillow, and I'm just like, man, I don't know what's going on with this. That's why I'm calling you.
Well, actually, I was multitasking when you just asked me that. So, the key is to build a rapport and connect with that person. And you might want to start out with, what's prompting you to look for a new home? Are you moving into the area? Just what kind of, you want to find, go 3 or 4 answers deep. Why?
Yeah, and or how about this? Are you represented?
That's a good one right there. That is a good one.
All right. So if I ever got a call from somebody, I mean, I'm being serious. I do this all the time. If I get a phone call, the first question I ask, they might be calling about a property. Sometimes they'll get one off of a website or whatever have you. They might drive by and see a sign. I ask them immediately. First question is, are you represented? And if they tell me yes, then we got to go into some questions, right? Do you have a buyer rep? Do you have a signed buyer rep? You want to make sure you're getting that out of the way before you going into exclusive agency. The second question I always ask is this: have you talked to a lender? Hey, how do you plan on paying for this thing? And you'll get all kinds of answers. I had one the other day. I had somebody calling about a piece of property. Goes, well, I'm waiting on a lawsuit money. I love those ones. Yeah, how long you been waiting? Oh, we're on 5 years now. Well, it ain't gonna happen. Have a great day. All right. So the whole thing is, you want to make sure you set them up so you don't have an exclusive agency situation. And and do you already have a lender involved, right? And does that give us an opportunity to also open up the door? And which is really weird is this. I don't know where these buyers are getting trained, but why would you call a realtor first if you don't even have any money? Have you ever thought about that, Jeff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what's the first thing we're going to tell them? I
This is
mean,
where they
what
get
am I going to
trained.
tell you? The first thing I'm going to say is we're going to have to find you a lender. So why don't we train people to find a lender first before they call an agent? I mean, I don't understand why that doesn't happen that way, but I don't know. I think, like you said, you just showed the website that people go on. They don't have like lender websites, you know what I'm saying? That says, oh, if you want to buy this, it's going to cost you this. So, that might be the start of why they call us first.
Yeah.
All right. So once I get the basic stuff out of the way, then you can go into how long you've been looking. What do you think, Jeff? And then kind of go
Yeah.
into some questions. I get a lot of buyers, and I've been looking for 10 years. Well, they're not going to be a solid buyer. We just started looking, the last couple of weeks, and where our lease is letting up in the next 6 months. Is that a good buyer? So, see what I mean? So if you ask some really good questions like that. So what kind of questions would you ask them? How long have they been looking?
Yeah. Find out what's prompting them to look. Again, if they're moving to the area, and just you really want to find exactly what it is they're looking for, and how many bedrooms, backyard, and just really dig deep and make that connection.
Do you actually have a sheet that you send out to them? Maybe a buyer questionnaire?
I don't have a sheet, but I do have some different scripts that we've all practiced, and you kind of get to learn, and rebuttals you want to have them ready and all that. So
Yeah. Maybe have a buyer sheet with some questions to answer. How long you've been looking. Where are you looking? A lot of people like school districts. They're looking at a certain ISD, something like that. And so all that can be looked or searched by your MLS. All the stuff that they're asking for. We're looking for a pool. We're looking for amenities is probably one of their biggest things as well. And so, if you can kind of peel back a little bit, you can definitely find out what they're looking for and kind of pinpoint the area and where they're at. I have one I make them sign. There you guys. So Melissa says she has an actual buyer questionnaire that she has signed. That's an
great.
excellent. Yeah, if you have a buyer questionnaire that you can send out to them, they fill it out and sign it. They can't come back and say, "Well, I said a 5-bedroom, not a 4-bedroom." See what I mean? You're going off that criteria. Otherwise, you get dragged around. That's exactly right. I think a lot of times, a lot of agents don't ask qualifying questions or have something in place like Melissa does. Next thing you know, you become the Texas tour guide.
Yep.
Leslie just brought up that seems to be the trend this year. Everybody wants to buy a 10-acre ranch with no money. It seems like they've been watching a lot of infomercials on TV, no money down. I'm just going to kind of tell you, can you buy a house with no money down? Is it possible? Not, obviously anything's possible, right? But let's be practical. How many people are actually going to sell a property, no money down? I mean, it's just not practical, right? So getting a loan is probably the most practical way of doing things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So once you pinpoint what they're looking for, you get the criteria down. What's next?
Well, I mean, now you've got their criteria. Let's pull up some now. Have they already been pre-approved?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because that right there, if you're going to start looking, even sending them homes, uh, you know, if you're outside their approval, their price range, man, it is so hard to show them a home after they've seen that $800,000 home that they don't qualify for. So it's real
No,
tough.
I think one of the
Melissa,
biggest mistakes. Yeah,
timeline.
Melissa, yeah. I think one of the biggest mistakes is people will go show the property without being pre-approved. You know what I mean? They just kind of show them the $900,000 house that they've been wanting, and then all of a sudden you show them a Ferrari, then they get pre-approved, and you get 250. You know, and so I believe that's kind of like a bait and switch. Really, you know, you're wasting everybody's time at that point. So yeah, absolutely get them pre-approved and then get them pinpointed. I've had people where you get pre-approved for 300,000 and they still want to go look for $500,000 properties. You know, you're like, you know, there's
Yeah.
an issue right there. I don't know about you, but I'm not good at math or anything. But you're about $300,000 short. So you know that's why you got to get that pre-approval in place. One of the things that I also like to do is this. I actually send out a mortgage calculator to the buyer. You know, like you could Google one. It's called Texas Mortgage Calculator. You can go ahead and Google one and send them a link over there. It'll tell them the down payment. It will tell them what the interest rate is, taxes and insurance. It kind of adds up, and it's a Texas calculator, so it's it kind of is adapted to our state per se. And then all of a sudden they'll put in 500,000. They might have $10,000 down. Then at a 7.5% interest rate for 30 years, tax and insurance, what happened to their payment? It went through the roof, right? And they look at you and go, I can't afford that monthly payment. And you kind of look at them and go, yeah, the bank already figured that out. You know what I mean? That's why the pre-approval letter is at this amount and not at this amount. And so that kind of brings some light to a lot of things as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of a helpful tool.
For
All
sure.
right. So once you get that criteria down, you can also put them on an auto drip, right?
Yeah. Let's just say they're looking for 3+ bedrooms, 2+ baths. Where are they looking at?
Let's go Roanoke. It's one of my favorite spots.
Roanoke, yeah. And let's stay under $800,000. Look at that. We got 16 homes.
Wow. So you can go ahead and pull those all up. And then you can just go ahead and send those over, or you can also put them on
Yep.
an auto drip, right?
Yep. Do save, auto email, create a new contact, subject. I always have it ASAP. Anything changes on that search, they're notified immediately, and then
Yeah.
boom. So
Next thing you know, you got somebody that's looking for property that's is getting the updates of the area, what they're looking for, and hopefully there's one that they can find to go show. All right, another thing too is another good tool is you use RPR as well.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I love RPR. If you go into the
yeah. Let me.
RPR system,
Yeah, I'll just. Yeah, however you want to do it. I mean, you can do a search for a particular area, and I can only see part of my screen, so I gotta fix that.
I'm wondering
But
where that'll look. That's all right.
yeah,
But you can
so
actually set a map.
yeah, you set the map, you can set the list. However you want to do it. Property type, we'll do single family.
Yeah.
Price max 800,000. Bedrooms. We'll do 3+. Yeah, 2+. Where we do Roanoke.
Yeah, sure. I know if you do forward, you probably pull up a bunch more.
Okay, what am I missing? Yeah. Okay.
Search it out.
Yeah, where's the search button?
I think you're on half a screen. But even if you pulled up and you set that map for Roanoke, it would actually show the new listings on the map too. All those little orange dots right there that you're seeing, those are all new. So think about that. That's in Tarrant County, right? You got that set for Tarrant County. That's a lot of new listings. What do you think?
Yeah.
That is a huge amount of new listings just came out on the market.
Yeah,
Oh.
not sure.
But I mean, you know,
There
you could
we
use,
go.
there you are. So see, you got all those new listings that just popped up on the map too. So that kind of gives you a great idea of what just popped up and what's available too. And all you got to do is click on one of those boxes right there and it'll pull up the property. So, you know, it makes it, to me, I like using the RPR because it makes it easier for me because the map just shows up right there. Next thing you know, it will pull right up. You click on it, you can view the property right there. And the cool thing about it also is it tells you all the property information once it pulls up. You don't have to go back to different screens like Realist or something like that. So you
Right.
can scroll down. It'll tell you, you know, who owns the property, what the taxes are on the property. And you can also scroll all the way down. It'll tell you what the school districts are, what they're ranked, which I thought was a good idea.
Yeah.
So it's all right in front of you. So we got a lot of cool tools that we can use. If you ever ran a CMA on RPR, have you ever ran a CMA on RPR before? It's about 85 pages.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's pretty in depth of what you can do. And the interesting thing about it is they have a sales comparison one. They also have a another type of CMA that you can do as well that is more in depth. And it's more like a 1004 MC. Have you ever seen that one before? Like the comparative market analysis or the
Yeah.
sales comparison approach. So it can also show more in depth and of course kind of like a 1004 MC that you can do in your matrix system, you can also do in the RPR system as well. So there's a lot of good information here, and you can over bombard people with information. You know, so I don't know if that's good or it's bad.
And you know what I like about RPR is let's say we, you know, the my buyer decides to put an offer, I'll just come right down here and throw it populates everything into
Yeah,
zip form. Boom.
yeah. You just click on the button, it'll throw it all into zip form for
Yeah.
you. So
It's
it's already
just
filled out.
it's already filled out. It's, you know, all you're doing is adding the parties to the transaction and
Mhm.
using your document templates, and then boom, you're writing up a contract in minutes.
That's easy.
So
Another thing too is you can also get RPR mobile. You know, if you ever
yeah.
download it on your iPhone, it's called RPR Mobile. And did you go? Did you know also RPR has Chat GPT?
I we had talked about that, but I still have not
Yeah.
seen that.
Go up to research. Click on
Yeah.
research. Go down to residential market trends. Up. Click on that. Type in a market. Just put it in Roanoke or something or Fort Worth, whatever you want to do. Press search and go to see where it says create a string. See where I'm at? Create a string. It's right above where it says property type. Go up above the map.
Okay.
Go up. Take your mouse up there where it'll say share or create script. See where it says create script?
You know, I got a window showing. Okay, here we go.
Click on create script.
Okay.
And then you can set, and it'll do a chat GPT right there. That is cool, isn't it? Create a
Create a
video,
video script. Social campaign.
social campaigns. You can actually set it for
Okay.
buyers and sellers. You can also set it for professional, whatever you want to do, and it will automatically create for that market a actual GPT chat for you.
Mm.
There you have
Yeah.
it. You can copy and paste that, put in social media, copy and paste that, make a newsletter out of it, It actually has a place on there where it say copy, send by email. See where I am?
Yeah.
So there's your Chat GPT. So is that a good way to keep in contact with your buyers and sellers as well? That's just another marketing tool that you can use.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So,
That's
there's a
fantastic.
lot of things that we can keep, not only, the information that these buyers give us, but we can also keep them astute with what's going on in the market. You got a Chat GPT now. So all you got to do is set it, send updates to them. And how professional is that?
Yeah.
So to me, that's a easy way of doing things. And that's also not only easy way of doing things, but it's also keeps everybody in the loop of what they're purchasing for the property. And that adds more credibility to you as well, right? Because you're more of an area expert. All right. So once they find their fine property that they're looking for, then the showing starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So once the showing starts, all of a sudden, that's when you can also schedule a showing through your MLS, right? The
Yep.
one thing that you can't do on RPR is schedule showings. Have you noticed that? You can't do that through your RPR. You have to go through Broker Bay. But if you go through Broker Bay, you can actually schedule your showings and they'll say the time, when you're going to show it and so on. So, you know, once you get to that point, hopefully you have a better rapport with your buyers as well. And what are you building as you're going? You're building a friendship. They're relying on you more. And that rapport is just building and building and building. So hopefully by this point, you're showing a couple properties. You got a buyer rep with them, right? You always get a buyer rep with them and stay in contact with them. And it's like I say all the time, buyers will buy when they want to buy. Sellers will sell when they want to sell. But what's the number one word? Follow up, right? Follow up and follow up. So that's kind of the beginning point of dealing with the buyer. So what do you think, Jeff?
Yeah. That's good
Not too
stuff.
bad. Yeah.
And
Next week.
Melissa had pointed out, she'll say, so if I find you 5 homes that meet the criteria on the buyer sheet, then are you ready to buy? So
Yeah.
she's point blank asking them.
Yeah, it's called the tie down technique. And so, that's not bad because if you find them 5 properties that meet their criteria in the area that they're looking and they look at you and go, oh, I don't think so. How serious are they really?
Yeah.
I think we've all had the experience where we've driven buyers around to 15,000 properties and they still don't buy anything, right? So that's a good point. Tie it down. Say, hey, look, we find it. Are you willing to buy it today or what are we doing? So how serious are you? That's a good point. All right. So there's the basics of how to get things rolling and, asking the proper questions, doing the proper procedures, knowing where to go to find the information, keeping people followed up and keeping them, educated with what's going on in the market. I think these are some pretty good tools.
Yeah. Good
So
stuff.
yeah, we can definitely set up for the next show, part 2 of working with buyers. We're actually going to go through the contract as well and kind of help them out a little bit and to, point out some certain things within the contract that we might want to bring to their attention. It's like I say all the time, send them the contract before you have it signed. Does that make sense? All the documentation, if you send over, kind of prepping you up for next show, if you send over all the documentation that they need to sign, they're going to look that and be very overwhelmed. This is baby steps, right? Baby steps. So if you send over a buyer rep, all right, we got this, right? We got it. We send over an IBS, all right, we got this, we got this. Then next thing you know, the next step would be we need to send you over an offer, right? An offer agreement or a sales contract, if you will. If I just have 11 pages slapped down in front of somebody, what do you think they're going to do? Maybe panic attack, right? They're like, oh my gosh, all this paperwork. And so, taking it baby step by baby step by baby step, I've noticed that that's definitely been more not only educational to our buyers, but it also keeps us more engaged. And one of our biggest jobs as a realtor is training our clients and, not sideswiping them. I think, Jeff, same thing.
Well, and that's where that buyer consultation just is so important. Lay it out, let them understand from start to finish what we're going to be doing together, and it's your job to make it easy for them. So
Absolutely. And I'm just going to throw this in at you. Due to the NAR situation, I'm going to call it the situation, the lawsuit. I think one of the biggest things that we should have in place, and I can't express this enough, if you spend time with a listing, with the sellers walking through a listing agreement, you need to spend time with the buyer the same exact way. Because, as we've been talking about in the past, this lawsuit's not going to go away, everybody. It seems to be multiplying a little bit, and there's been mock suits and everything else. And what's going to help us with this situation, because the buyers are saying they don't know how much they're paying, and all the confusion that's going on, a buyer rep and a listing agreement are employment contracts. That's one way to think about it, right? They're employment contracts. And so in the listing agreement, it tells the seller how much you're paying, and it also tells what the listing agent is willing to give the co-op broker, right? That's why it's called a list. That's why it's an employment agreement, because they're employing us to sell their house, and we're charging them a fee. The same thing with the buyer rep. If you go through it with the buyer rep, especially spend a little bit of time on paragraph 11. If you guys know what paragraph 11 is, that's your commission, right? And explain to them how that section works, and tell them if the seller's not willing to pay, X amount of dollars, then you're going to be responsible for it, because this is an agreement between me and you. Now you understand what you're going to be paying in the transaction. It's either A, the seller agrees to pay a fee, and they're going to pay us through the buyer agent commission, and you'll see it on the MLS. Or if they're not willing to pay that 2 or 1 or 4% or whatever you agree on, it's going to fall back onto you, and there is no surprises. So I believe buyer rep is going to be number one key. Definitely number one key. So, all right. So next show, we're going to actually walk you through the contract a little bit, and possibly point out some, maybe some, I'm not going to say pitfalls, but I'm going to say some things that maybe we should be pointing out to our actual buyers, and have them, which we get a lot of questions on ourselves when we're dealing with buyers, and possibly answer some of those questions, and hopefully make this a lot smoother transaction for everybody. All right, Jeff, got anything to add?
No, that's good. I mean, stepping through it, one by one, and CMAs, there's several ways to do it. It's good to share. The more you can do it and validate, triangulate that range for that buyer or seller, the better.
Absolutely. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. It's a good starting point, at least. Kind of gave some really good tips. Thank you, Jeff. And that just kind of sets us up to move forward and keep moving with these buyers and give them the best service that we possibly can. All right. So let's move on to. All right, what you got for the tip of the week?
We have some questions. That was a little bit long.
We jumped over tip of the week to question.
Yes, we got some questions for you, Steve.
Oh,
Tim,
all right, cool.
From Mansfield.
What's
what
up,
exactly is a clue report?
Oh boy, that's a good question. A clue report is basically a comprehensive loss underwriting exchange. That's actually what clue stands for. And clue reports are awesome. What they do is, there's a myth going on that, only the seller can pull it. No, that's not true. Any insurance agent that sells homeowner insurance can give you a quote unquote clue report. And normally they don't charge you for it. And you can actually get one if you go into the TXR form. There's one that says insurance, get home, information about insurance. If you go down the middle of the page, it actually tells you get a clue report. And there's also LexisNexis. If you ever heard of LexisNexis, it actually gives you a link right there. You click on it and actually get a clue report. So what does that mean? Anybody can get one, but they're probably going to charge you a little bit of money. I think it's like $15 through LexisNexis. But if you call an insurance agent, they can more than likely give you one for free. Maybe a little charge, not much. But what it does is it tells you all the claims on the property over the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's helpful.
So, very helpful, because I don't know about you, but sellers may lie on a seller's disclosure notice. What? All right. So sometimes they don't disclose there were claims on the property. What? Another thing too is if you have a lot of claims on your property that are unnatural claims, which are tornado, flood, or something, they can actually cancel your insurance. So sometimes that property can't be insured. So you got to be real careful. Include reports are very helpful. So good question, Tim.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Toby from Dallas,
Toby. All right.
he showed his first farm and ranch property, and they wanted to know how many tanks are on the property, and he had no idea what they were talking about.
So he's out looking around for army vehicles. I don't see any to be honest with you. All right, tanks, also known as ponds. You know what I mean? All right, basically, a tank is just a body of water, right? That is normally used for either A, for animals, or B, irrigation. I've actually seen tanks where they have oil rigs because they're going to pull water from a water surplus to be able to, drill for oil as well. So tanks are just basically a layman term pond. There you guys go, body of water. So the next question would be who owns it? You know what I mean? You look at it and go, who owns that tank? Well, if it came from, it's called the law of capture. So if it was rainwater, if it was brought up from an underground spring, that could possibly belong to the owner, correct? Now, if there was a major waterway, such as the Bronzes River, redirected to fill up your tank, that's probably not a good idea, right? It's actually under the Master Water Authority. And that would be a real problem right there. And you can't redirect, obviously state-owned waters. So, the question is, what's the tank? It's like a pond. The next question is, where'd that water come from to make sure that they actually own that pond and that water in that pond?
Well, Leslie Ray really brings up a good point. She said it's funny, back away from the land. And, yeah. And maybe Toby may not be ready to start showing farm and ranch so stay within your scope.
If you walk out to a farm and ranch, you go look over and go, what's a cow? You probably need to get back in your car, so these are definitely things, hands behind your back. Yeah, exactly. All right. So that just goes back to competency. You know what I mean? So that looks to me like, Toby, I would probably get a mentor. That's the number one thing I'd probably do. Maybe you want to check your broker manual, see if you can even do farm and ranch. That's number two. And number three, that kind of goes back to some of these violations we've been getting for incompetency. So that would be kind of a red flag for me. Can you imagine going out there with a potential buyer and the agent doesn't even know what a tank is? They probably got in their car and drove off. All right. So that'd be a great referral, by the way. We do farm and ranch. All right. So good question, Toby. All right. What else we got?
Jimmy from Garland. He said he's got some sellers. They had a home inspection prior to listing the home. Does he have to make that available to potential buyers? Does he have to disclose that? Good question.
No. All right. If you're doing a home inspection prior to listing the property, number one, I don't suggest it because you're going to find out everything wrong with the property. All right. But number two, if I was a buyer, no matter if you got an inspection or not, I'm still going to get my own. That just makes sense to me because all inspectors are different, So if you do an inspection prior to listing the property, now the seller is responsible for everything that is known. So that could be a situation where you're going to have to update your seller's disclosure notice, and so that just makes to be honest with you, it makes you and the seller more liable for disclosure at that point. So that's why I always tell the sellers, I probably wouldn't do an inspection right now. Let the buyer do the inspection. We disclose everything that we know. And then if they find something in the inspection and they want to negotiate repairs, that might be a better route to go. But no, you don't have to give them the inspection. Nope, not at all.
Okay. Well, good. Carla from Corinth.
All right.
Do I have to disclose if it's my cousin's house that I'm listing? A cousin.
All right. Well, funny thing about this is in your contract under paragraph 8, you have to disclose if you're a party to the transaction, right? You also have to disclose if you own 10% of a business or more, or your parent or sibling, right? That's what it says. But it doesn't say cousin, it doesn't say uncle, it doesn't say aunt. Now, the Trella law follows what is actually in that paragraph 8 of your contract, right? So, what do you have to disclose? Now, the interesting thing about that is this: we are realtors. So, we not only follow license laws, but what else do we follow? The code of ethics, right? That's a higher standard. And there's 17 articles. And if you read Article 4, what does it say? If you represent any immediate family member. And so what would immediate family member be? Sounds to me like an aunt or an uncle, right?
Sister.
So brother, there you go. So see what I mean? So it might not have said that in the actual contract under paragraph 8, but you always got to remember, we go to the next level since we're realtors, and you might want to look in your articles. Article 4. If you go down to Article 5, it also says that if you are going to get any interest in property, you must disclose it as well. So see what I mean? So it's covered. Let's put it that way.
Now, I've seen agents put, agent related to seller. It doesn't say how, but I thought that was a pretty honest disclosure, so.
Yeah, definitely. At least they disclose the fact they were related.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to tell you who they are, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. This relationship is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
All right. Is that the last one, or we got one more?
That's it. That's it. I mean, we're already we're past the hour mark.
Oh, wow. Told you it was a good show this time, boy. We learned a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Stuff,
So,
Maynard.
What's that?
That's good stuff, Maynard.
I remember that commercial. All right. So just like we always close the show with, if you ever want to call in, ask a question, we got a phone number for you, 940-230-2899. Or you can always send an email, and your question may show up on the show. All right. So that's realestateramble@gmail.com. And so it's also going across the screen, 940-230-2899. Or you can also email us at realestateramble@gmail.com. Another interesting thing, I had somebody ask me before we cut out of here, if I call that phone number, can I be live? Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So you can be live on the show too, by the way. So if you want to call and the show's not on, you're going to probably get one of us that answer the phone or a voicemail. But if you want to go live on the show, please, you're encouraged to call 940-230-2899, and you can be part of the fun. All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. And just FYI, next week, the 21st, we're going to skip the 21st for the holiday season. So happy holidays to everybody. And we'll be back on January
4th.
All right, January 4th. And we're going to pick up on segment 2, walking the buyer through beginning to end. So you guys have a great day. Thanks again.
Good job. Well done, sir.
Thank you.